I never thought my brother's rise would cost us 600K until I chose to walk away. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air crackled with tension, and I could practically feel the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. In that moment everything felt fragile. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like an overwhelmed drum. My brother, Max, stood there, radiating confidence like the bright stage lights that spotlighted him. But beneath that shiny surface lay a chaos I could almost touch. I had seen it in his eyes, the shadows lurking just beneath his smile. I wanted to scream, to shake him awake, to remind him of where we'd come from. But I was frozen. We were close once, best friends. Our childhood was a whirlwind of laughter, shared secrets, and ice cream on summer nights. Now it felt as if a canyon had opened between us, swallowing everything we'd built. I still remembered the hours we spent in our cramped bedroom, dreaming together, plotting our futures. I could feel it slipping away now, drifting like leaves in an autumn wind. The stakes had risen high. Max had landed a massive investment deal, a ticket to instant fame and fortune. But with it came shadows, predators lurking in the background. I warned him. I begged him. Max, be careful. But my voice was just a whisper against his ambition. Tension simmered around us during those crucial moments, the air charged with uncertainty. I could hear whispers from people, curious eyes watching us like a tightly wound coil, ready to spring. Did you hear? They wanted to see whether we would rise or erupt in flames. And when that wrenching decision hit me walking away from his deal, I felt a crack deep inside me. I had sacrificed everything to keep him safe, to shield our family from ruin. That moment replayed in slow motion. The hurt in Max's eyes, the betrayal that mirrored my own. I felt my own sense of hope shatter, echoing through my body like glass breaking. Why can't you just support me? He had shouted, his voice raw. That question haunted me, twisting in my stomach. I wanted to cry out how I was supporting him by trying to keep him grounded. But the words caught in my throat. Silence looked back at us, heavy and unforgiving. And then came the night the money vanished. I lay awake, heart racing, every tick of the clock amplifying my dread. Max's victory felt like a ticking time bomb, one that I couldn't defuse. The guilt clawed at me. What if I was wrong? What if I had overreacted? But that potential loss loomed over us like a specter we could neither ignore nor escape. The decision I made was shrouded in the fog of urgency, and just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, a phone call shattered the silence. The breath left my lungs. You can't be serious, I gasped, feeling the walls around me close in. All my fears materialized, a monstrous specter lurking just beyond reach. The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was at play. My instincts screamed that this was only the beginning. Who was behind all of this? Why did it feel like we were being watched, our every move scrutinized? Determination coursed through me, and as I glanced over at Max, I knew one thing for sure. I would get to the bottom of this, even if it meant uncovering secrets we might not survive. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The dawn of a new day arrived with a strange mix of hope and dread. I could hear the faint chirping of birds outside my window, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling inside me. I stood still, staring at the morning light spilling into the room like liquid gold. Yet, the warmth it offered felt foreign, unwanted, as shadows danced across my thoughts, taunting me with memories of the night before as I made my way down the stairs. Every creak of the wooden steps echoed with the tension that hung between Max and me like an invisible thread, drawn tighter with every moment of silence. Our kitchen felt off, the once cheerful hues of yellow and blue now appeared muted, robbed of their vibrancy. Max sat at the table, feet restless, tapping out an erratic rhythm on the surface. He didn't look up when I entered, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond the worn linoleum. "Good morning," I said, trying to infuse warmth into my voice, though I knew it came out brittle, like glass on the verge of shattering. "Morning." His response was curt, clipped, a mere formality echoing in the quiet that I hesitated, searching for something to bridge the chasm between us. The newspaper lay crumpled at his elbow, its headlines screaming with a sense of urgency that clashed with the stillness of the room. Famous entrepreneurs collide in disastrous business deal. The ominous headline sent a shiver down my spine. We were becoming a story, our lives dissected by faceless strangers, the very thing I had hoped to protect us from. Taking a seat across from him, I pushed the paper away with trembling hands, drowning in the weight of our unsaid confessions. You know we can't let this define us, right? I ventured cautiously, desperate for a chink in his armored resolve. Max finally looked at me, and for a moment, I recognized the brother I once knew, buried deep within the layers of ambition and hurt. Then just as quickly he hardened again, a shield slamming down between us. Is that what you think? That I'm letting this ruin us? I'm trying to build something here, and you don't understand. I understand more than you think. I pressed, sadness creeping into my voice. Max, we're in this together. But what you're doing, it's dangerous, and I'm scared for you. For us. A flicker of something crossed his eyes, regret, perhaps, or anger, and in that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. If I could just keep talking, maybe I could break through. But instead, he stood up abruptly, pushing the chair backward with an angry scrape against the floor. I don't need you to protect me like I'm some child. I can handle this. His voice cracked, revealing the turmoil beneath his bravado. We stood there, two sides of a coin, desperate and fractured. My breath caught as Max stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me engulfed in the lingering chill of his words. I fought to remind myself that anger often masked deeper fears, and yet bitterness seeped into my heart like ink in water, swirling with my confusion and worry. Determined to act, I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I dialed the one person who could shed light on Max's paradoxical world, the investor. Please, it's urgent, I pleaded when they finally answered. I need to know more about the deal Max is involved in. Get in line, a gruff voice responded. We're all worried about him. But trust me, he knows what he's doing. Every syllable was like a stone sinking to the pit of my stomach. What do you mean? Does he? I could hear my desperation creep into my tone, pleading for empathy. The line went quiet for a moment before the voice softened. He thinks he does, but there are forces more powerful than him out there. Just be careful. The abrupt click at the end of the call left nothing but silence echoing in my ears. I was about to spiral into despair when a muffled noise broke the stillness, a knock at the front door. Hurting but willing to cling to any flicker of kindness, I opened it. Standing there was an old neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, her white hair framing a wrinkled face illuminated by the sunlight. She held out a plate of freshly baked cookies that, despite their humble appearance, radiated warmth. I thought you might need these, she said, her voice kind yet firm. You two look like you've been fighting. Love doesn't always look pretty, but it's worth fighting for. I felt a surge of gratitude at her simple gesture, a reminder that we were not alone in this storm. Thank you, I managed, my voice wavering. It's been rough. She nodded knowingly, as if she understood without needing further explanation. Just remember, the sun shines brightly even behind the clouds. As she walked away, I closed the door, clutching the plate of cookies close to my heart. Hope flickered in my chest once more, but just as quickly, the bitter taste of anxiety returned when I saw Max's car pull into the driveway. With every ounce of courage I gathered, I placed the cookies on the table and braced myself for another storm. In that moment, an unsettling sense crept in, wrapping around us like a thick fog. What if there were secrets darker than we could ever expect? As he entered the house, something shifted within him. The confident smirk he usually wore seemed to fade. My heart pounded as he stepped closer. We need to talk, he said, voice strained, the weight of something unsaid hanging heavily between us. But before I could respond, his phone buzzed ominously on the countertop. All at once, his face paled, and the air turned electric with anticipation. He glanced at me, eyes wide. It's them, he murmured, anxiety threading through his tone. And just like that, the air shifted again, fear settling in as we stood on the precipice of an unknown darkness. In that moment I understood I was not just fighting for Max anymore. I was fighting for both our lives. The tension in the room was palpable, as if the very walls were closing in around us. Max's phone lay there, vibrating insistently against the countertop, each buzz echoing my heartbeat. My mind raced with what them could mean, My heart pounding a desperate rhythm. He hesitated for a split second, grounding himself before snatching the phone and shooting me a look that spoke mountains, a combination of fear and determination. I could see him grappling with something dark, an intangible weight he carried as if it were carved into his bones. Max, just breathe, I urged, taking a cautious step toward him, trying to mask my own rising panic. You don't have to answer it now. Whatever it is, we can face it together. But he was already dismissing my words, his face hardening back to the familiar mask he wore. This isn't just about us anymore. If I don't answer, the consequences. He trailed off, the unspoken fear heavy in the air. Max, I said, attempting to reach through the wall he had built around himself, we can figure it out. Just tell me what's going on. The muscles in his jaw clenched, and for a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of the brother who loved deeply and fought fiercely. Then he turned his gaze back to his phone, breaths becoming shallow and unstable. I swallowed hard as I watched him grapple with the decision, my own heart breaking a little more with every moment of silence stretching out between us. Just don't do anything reckless, I added, my voice trembling. His thumb hovered over the screen as if it held the power to unravel everything. His finger was about to hit the answer button when I heard something, an insistent knock at the door that jolted both of us from the charged atmosphere. Stay here, he whispered, urgency lacing his voice as he pocketed his phone and darted toward the front door. I didn't follow. Something was shifting, a ripple in time that felt too fragile to touch. The door swung wide to reveal not just any visitor but our father. He filled the doorway, his silhouette dark against the sunlight, casting a long shadow filled with an ominous weight. The sight of him sent a chill racing down my spine. I hadn't seen him in years. Max, he said, his voice low and gravelly, almost unrecognizable. The usual bravado was stripped away, revealing someone raw and vulnerable. We need to talk. Max stiffened, the earlier urgency deflating. What are you doing here? He barely managed, his voice a mix of shock and confusion. Jess, you should go, he said quickly, eyes darting toward me. But I felt an irresistible pull to stay, to understand the gravity of this unexpected reunion. No, I began to protest, but Max cut me off. Just go, please. With a reluctant nod, I stepped back, but my heart raced. It didn't feel right to leave them alone. I forced myself to breathe, heart pounding as I leaned against the wall, waiting and yearning to figure out the tangled mess before us. Their conversation was hushed, a flap of darkness wrapping around them that made me feel like a spy hidden behind enemy lines. I'm not a child anymore, I heard Max say, his voice strained, but the vulnerability in it sent a wave of compassion crashing over me. Our father's response was clipped, sharp enough to cause a fracture in the air. You're making a mistake, son. This deal, it's bigger than you think. You're playing with fire and it will burn all of us. My chest tightened. There it was, a warning that felt like a bowstring drawn back to its breaking point. I didn't dare to breathe, clinging to the uncertainty and fear that wrapped around me. The world outside felt distant, and the weight of Max's choice pressed down on both of us like a storm cloud about to burst. Dad, I know what I'm doing, Max replied, voice steady but laden with fragility. But I could sense he was teetering on the edge of doubt, the cracks in his foundation widening. You don't, our father shot back, desperation creeping into his tone. I've seen this before, Max, trust me. With every word, the house tightened around us, air thick with unresolved emotions. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, a kaleidoscope of our family's unspoken pain resurfacing. A tumultuous ocean laid bare before us all. As I stood there, helpless and uncertain, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Another reminder of the world outside, an email that spelled trouble. I dared not look until their confrontation reached a frenetic pitch, voices unraveling into a symphony of anguish and pleading. Why can't you see that you're just following in my footsteps? Our father's voice rose, heartbreak spilling out like an avalanche. You can't fix what's broken without acknowledging it first. Max snapped back, fluid anger morphing into anguish. You think this is about you? It was approaching a point where emotions would eclipse logic. A flood of rage met the torrent of regret, mirroring the battle winding inside me. I didn't know how to pull this family away from the edge, and I found myself wanting to scream that history need not dictate our future. Suddenly, before I could grasp the meaning behind his words, Max shouted back, maybe I want to be my own man. Maybe I don't need your shadow hanging over me. A silence hung heavily in the air, and despair washed over me like a rogue wave, drowning my hopes. But before I could process the fallout, my phone buzzed again, this time more insistent. I pulled it out hesitantly, glancing at the screen, a name I hadn't seen in eons. It was Melissa, my childhood friend. The very same Melissa who had always warned me to be careful of the ambitions we chased, the dreams steeped in peril. And the message that lit up my phone shattered the fragile stillness. I need to talk to you. It's about Max and the deal. It's bigger than you realize. And there it was, the cliffhanger. The new direction that twined through my heart like a vine, strangling the very air I needed to breathe. I felt the betrayal of buried truths lapping at my heels, and just like that, I was ripped from the chaos unfolding in front of me. Somehow, I knew this was only the beginning. With a growing sense of dread, I stood on shaky ground, preparing to descend into a darker reality than I ever anticipated. The air inside the house crackled with unspoken tension, the kind that invades every crevice and corners even the brightest thoughts into shadows. I blinked at my phone, the message from Melissa demanding attention. I could feel the thrum of my pulse in my ears, each beat a reminder of the looming questions that felt like a damning weight on my chest. I glanced back towards the living room where Max and our father's voices remained muffled but heated, an urgent volley of words spiraling into a tumult I had no blueprint to navigate. Melissa's message loomed over me, pulling me like a dark cloud on the horizon, promising storms instead of rainbows. What did she know? What kind of deal had Max gotten himself entangled in? And why did it feel like my whole world was about to spiral? I took a shaky breath and glanced towards the doorway, where the increasing tension between my brother and father radiated. Max had always been the one to shield me from our father's wrath, a guardian cloaked in an armor of bravado. Now he was standing dangerously close to confronting the very foundations that held him together. Jess, Max's voice broke through the cacophony, raw and filled with something I couldn't quite decipher. I felt a visceral tug towards him, a pull that compelled me to step back into the fray. But before I could even think about re-entering that charged space, my phone buzzed again. I swallowed hard, knowing I was being pulled into a tempest, a realm of choices fraught with consequences greater than I could fathom. Unable to deny the intensity of my curiosity or the pressing weight of concern for Max, I opened Melissa's message. Meet me at the old diner. I'll explain everything. I hesitated, my heart pounding like a warning bell in my chest. The familiarity of the diner whispered to me, filled with echoes of laughter and innocence braided into our childhoods. The last time I had been there, things had felt so simple. Now layers of complexity wrapped around even the smallest decisions. Jess, please. Max's voice cut through the haze and pinned me to the spot, urgency flooding his tone. My heart sank at the thought of abandoning him. Max, I started, torn between the haunting memories I swam in and the urgency that begged me to respond. But a fleeting glance exchanged with our father sent icy fingers down my spine, and I knew something was brewing under the surface, a riptide I couldn't ignore. Enough. Our father's voice boomed, slicing through the air sharp enough to draw blood. Max, you're playing with fire. You have no idea what this deal entails. It was a dangerous gambit to push him like this, and I could almost feel the walls pressing in tighter. The emotions thickened, and it felt like they existed within a fragile bubble on the verge of exploding. Then enlighten me. If you know so much, tell me what I'm in for. Max shouted back, the frustration in his voice wrapping around my heart like a vice. I darted another glance at my phone. The coffee shop had been our refuge once. It had been a place of warmth, a reprieve from the chaos of our lives. Melissa's name kept flashing in my mind like a neon sign. She held answers, and those answers gave me hope. In that moment I made a decision. Quiet and deliberate, I took a step back from Max and our father, retreating into the shadows of the hallway. Jess, where are you going? Max's voice was alarmed, but I forced myself to keep moving, heart racing as I fought against the urge to turn back. I grabbed my coat from the rack, shaking with uncertainty, and flung open the door, stepping out into the bright sunlight that felt blinding against the turmoil inside. The journey to the diner felt eternal, each step heavy with the weight of decisions left unmade. I pushed open the door, the familiar chime of the bell overhead flickering memories of simpler times as I entered. The place barely changed. Lacquered wooden booths lined in a warm glow, the scent of coffee heavy in the air. Melissa spotted me immediately, her expression a mixture of urgency and something darker. "Thank you for coming," she said, gesturing to the booth where she sat. "What's going on?" I asked, attempting to rein in the panic that threatened to bubble over. She leaned closer, the shadows dancing in her eyes. "Max is in way over his head. You need to understand there's more to this deal than he's telling you. And it's impacting more than just him." "What do you mean?" I pressed, a tidal wave of dread pooling in my stomach. "The money he's involved with, it's not just about the cash flow. It's about something far more dangerous. Came with consequences." As her words sank in, I felt a chokehold of fear twist inside me. And suddenly the diner felt too small, the walls closing in. "What kind of consequences?" I whispered, knowing that something dark was waiting for us. Melissa hesitated, glancing around as if the truth were a hidden thief ready to steal her words. "People are involved, Jess, powerful people. If you don't pull him back now, it could mean everything. Especially for you." Heat rushed to my cheeks, and the pulsing in my chest magnified. I could feel my entire world pivoting without warning. What had Max done? And what would it ignite in the pursuit of freedom that seemed more like a curse now? I stood there, eyes wide, heart racing, knowing that each moment swelled with newfound urgency. I couldn't run, couldn't hide from what was ahead, that I had to go back. But as I turned to leave, Melissa reached out, her fingers brushing against my arm, grounding me for a split second. "Wait, Jess. Promise me you will talk to him. You can't allow yourself to become collateral damage in his choices." The gravity of her warning settled within me, and as I met her gaze, I felt that dagger of uncertainty plunge deep. "Promise me," she reiterated. "I promise," I whispered, feeling as if I was sealing my fate with those words. But just as I turned to leave, there it was, the sensation of the weight of the world crashing down, the resolve chiseled deeper into my bones. I stepped toward the door, determined, unaware of the storm waiting just beyond. When I arrived home, the air was thicker than before, charged with electricity and fear. As I crossed the threshold, the echoed pain of my family loomed larger than ever. That I found Max and our father still locked in a heated dialogue. But the moment Max turned to see me, his expression shifted from anger to a flicker of anger tinged with worry. "Jess, please," he pleaded. But I knew that any choice I made from that moment would echo in the citadel of our family, forging paths laden with unknown dangers. I swallowed the fear gnawing at my gut, ready to confront whatever awaited me in the depths of our fractures. What would the price of loyalty be for us? And as I stood there in the flickering shadows of our household, I wasn't sure what I was prepared to sacrifice. I only knew one thing. The real storm was only just beginning. The silence that enveloped the living room was suffocating, a thick cloud dense with unspoken fears. My heart raced as I stood in the doorway, every bone in my body straining to take in the gravity of the scene before me. The tension crackled like a live wire, and my decision to return only amplified the tumult within me. I felt like a ship lost at sea, adrift and battling the waves of my family's unraveling. Max's anger pulsed through the room like a beacon, his distress echoing in the silence. Our father, his expression hardened, seemed like an immovable mountain, insistent and indomitable. "Just get back," Max shouted, desperation lacing his voice as he staggered to his feet, eyes wide and pleading. "Please," our father interjected, his tone both a warning and a plea. "You don't want to get involved in this." I had crossed the threshold into a battlefield, unknowingly raising the stakes in what was already a precarious balance. "What is happening?" I managed to say, my voice trembling slightly, struggling to pry the truth from the tension that filled the air. Max looked to our father, who hesitated, searching for the words, as if they might unsheathe a sword of truth that could slice through the chaos. "No one is going to tell you the whole truth, Jess," he finally said, his voice cool and dismissive. I stepped further inside, feeling an indescribable pull toward Max, like a moth drawn to a flickering flame. "Max, please," I urged, noticing the hurt written across his brow. "What's going on?" He ran a trembling hand through his hair, glancing back at our father before seeming to resolve something silently. There was a moment where I could see the walls he had built up come crashing down, exposing a minute fragment of his fears. "I'm in deep, Jess," he admitted quietly, his voice cracking as he spoke. "I did something, I made a choice that I thought would help, but it brought everything crashing down." "And that terrible choice involves what?" my father interjected, his tone warning. But it felt impossible for me to ignore the frightened boy hiding behind my brother's bravado. 600,000, Max divulged, his voice barely above a whisper, laden with the weight of the truth. A deal that requires connections I didn't think I would have to make. My breath hitched as his words hung in the air, bleak and foreboding, the enormity of his revelation enveloping me like a suffocating fog. What kind of connections, Max? He flinched, a flicker of something resembling shame crossing his features. It was as if my question had pulled back a curtain, revealing dangers lurking behind shadows I wasn't prepared to face. People I thought could help, but now? They want repayment, and it's not money they're asking for. I felt my chest constrict. What do you mean? Max opened his mouth to answer but was interrupted by the harsh snap of our father's voice, filled with anger yet twinged with concern. Enough, Max. You're putting your sister at risk, and for what? Stop trying to control me. Max shot back, voice rising in desperation. I'm not the kid you can shield anymore. I thought I could manage this. I thought his words trailed off, revealing the panic simmering underneath his bravado. I could see tears shining in his eyes, threatening to spill over, and it broke something inside me. I wanted to rush forward, wrap my arms around him and shield him from the chaos that threatened to engulf him, but I feared that I would merely draw us both deeper into the storm. With a crackle of anger and frustration, our father advanced toward Max. You don't understand what's at stake. You're putting your life in danger. And Jess is my sister. Max shouted defiantly, his voice rising like a trumpet against a tidal wave. And I'll protect her. I can't let anyone use her because of my mistakes. My heart swelled painfully, fluttering at the fierce loyalty he displayed, even in the face of his own turmoil. Yet that same loyalty weighed heavy on me now, threatening to pull me under. Max, I said softly, desperation spilling through every syllable. I don't want to be protected. I want to help. No, Max practically shouted, the fire in his voice clashing against the shadows of his vulnerability. You can't. You don't know the people I'm dealing with. They'll come after you, Jess. They might not stop at just the money. I recoiled, the razor-sharp edge of fear slicing through my chest. My mind raced back to Melissa's warning, the weight of it settling ominously. Who are they? I pressed, wanting desperately to grasp this notion, to hold its truth like a lifeline. Max hesitated, the anger melting away as tears brimmed in his eyes. They're not just anyone, Jess. They're dangerous. They know things about us. About our past. My heart sank further as the magnitude of that realization echoed in my mind. Suddenly, the distance between us felt as stark as the chasm between us and the world we once knew. What are we going to do? I whispered, aware that my question carried the weight of 1,000 fears. Running isn't an option, my father stated grimly, now moving toward us with a resigned expression. But we must act. The longer we stay idle, the tighter the noose becomes. The room buzzed with my brother's tremors of anger, my father's steely resolve, and my own coiling dread. I felt trapped, caught between the fierce loyalty to my brother, and the rising tide of fear that threatened to consume us all. But just then, as if summoned by the gravity of our discussion, the doorbell rang its chime, slicing through the darkness like a siren's haunting song. We froze, each of us exchanging anxious glances. Was it merely a neighbor? Or something more sinister? Don't answer it, our father warned, his voice laced with an urgency that made my heart race in tandem with my mounting anxiety. We can't just sit here, Max said, his frustration boiling over again. They can't know we're afraid. But I was already moving toward the door, the impulse to confront the unknown firing my resolve. I placed a trembling hand on the doorknob, heart racing, adrenaline pumping. Whatever awaited us on the other side would inevitably change everything. And as I pushed the door open, the threshold that separated safety from uncertainty dissolved, leaving us dangling over the precipice of our fractured lives. The door creaked open, and the crisp evening air swept into the room, bearing with it the faint scent of rain and something else, something sharp and unsettling. Standing on the porch was a figure I scarcely recognized. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the dim light, but when they did, I felt a jolt of disbelief coursing through me. "Hi, Jess," said the person before me, their voice soft yet laden with an undeniable tension. It was Lila, my childhood friend, the one person who had steadfastly remained a part of my life despite the chaos of recent years. Her familiar smile was gone, replaced instead by a look of deep concern. "What are you doing here?" I managed to say, the weight of uncertainty hanging thick in the air between us. "I heard about," she hesitated, casting a hesitant glance back toward the living room before stepping inside. The faint gloss of fear in her eyes mirrored my own. "I had to see if you were okay. Melissa told me things are complicated." Max's frown deepened at her arrival, his body tense, ready to defend me against whatever truths were swirling in the air. "You shouldn't be here, Lila. This is family business," he said, his voice low and a little rough around the edges. "Maybe," she replied calmly, meeting his gaze boldly, "but that doesn't mean Jess isn't a part of this." Her attention turned back to me, a pleading softness drifting into her expression. "I know something is wrong, Jess. I can help." At that moment, I felt an overwhelming swell of gratitude mixed with despair. Lila had always been the light in my life, the one person who could make me laugh even in the darkest moments. Yet, as I looked around at the pain in Max's eyes and the hardening mask of our father's face, I knew there was no simple resolution to be had. The very essence of who we were had splintered and cracked, threatened by forces bearing down on us from beyond our walls. "Jess, we need to talk," Lila pressed, taking a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I know you want to protect Max, and believe me, I get it. But please let me help you." Max scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. "You want to help by getting involved with something you don't understand? You should go home, Lila." I took a breath, feeling the weight of Max's words, ground down by the reality unraveling around us. "Lila, you shouldn't have come. I don't want to put you in danger." But as I spoke, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. I couldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. My brother's choices had inadvertently set a course that would not only endanger his life, but could pull everyone I loved into the fray. "Jess," Lila whispered, reaching out to grasp my wrist gently, her thumb brushing over my pulse. "You have to trust me. You're not alone in this." And that's when it happened. The door behind me slammed shut as our father shut down the ephemeral hope radiating from Lila. "No more discussions, Jess. We handle this as a family," he said, his voice harsh. "We've made enough bad decisions for one night." "Dad, wait," I protested, but Lila caught my eye again, and with a slight nod she stepped forward, a woman forged from the fires of loyalty. "Your family is our family, even if they don't see it," she interjected, her tone firm yet sincere. "I'm not leaving you to face this alone." Max looked torn, caught between the pull of Lila's unwavering support and the bitterness of the whirlwind around him. "You don't know what you're getting into," he muttered, his bravado slipping. "What I know is that we can't hide," Lila shot back, her determination shining through. "Hiding only gives them more power over us. We need to take control of the narrative." Our father scoffed again, double-checking the latch on the door as if the mere act of securing it could shield us from the dangers lurking outside. "You don't understand, any of you. There's no negotiating, then let us fight," Lila interrupted sharply. "We can face them together." For a heartbeat the room fell silent, and I felt the weight of their gazes all resting on me, a shared uncertainty rippling through the space. I could feel my heart begin to race, pounding in my ears as the conflict mounted around us like some oppressive fog, thickening with every passing moment. "Do you truly want to be a part of this, Lila?" I finally asked, desperation seeping through the cracks of my resolve. "This isn't going to be easy." "Easy isn't what we need," she replied, her voice steady. "We need to find a way through the darkness." And then it hit me, a spark of courage ignited deep within. If I had the strength to choose to stand with my brother and Lila, perhaps we could carve a path through the chaos. There was a flicker of hope in the tempest, something fragile yet undeniable as we stood locked in this collective moment. A sudden noise fractured the silence, a sharp knock on the door shattered the fragile sense of security we had begun to build. All our heads spun toward the sound, the air crackling with a newfound tension. Max's eyes widened in anxiety. "They found us," he breathed, his voice strained with a heart full of both fear and resolve. I placed my hand over Lila's, her warmth grounding me even as the winds of uncertainty howled all around us. No matter what awaited us beyond that door, I had made my choice. I wasn't going to walk away. But as our father stepped forward, preparing to face whoever was on the other side, I caught a glimpse of the briefest flicker of something in emotion, perhaps a smirk on his lips that sent a shiver down my spine. In that moment, as the door creaked inward, I realized with horrifying clarity that this confrontation was about not just our family's past, but also the burdens we had yet to uncover. What was waiting for us could change everything, and just like that, the stakes had escalated to a place I never thought we would venture. The door swung open, revealing a night steeped in shadows, with the dim glow of streetlights illuminating a figure I had hoped never to see again. My heart raced as I recognized the familiar outline, the very one I had associated with nightmares, deceit, and the choices that had torn my family apart. It was Oliver, my father's associate, and the man whose underhanded dealings had inevitably led us to this moment. "Surprise, surprise," he said, a self-satisfied grin stretching across his face. "I thought I'd find you all here." Max sprang forward, urging Lila and me behind him, his body coiling with protective instinct. "Get out, Oliver. This is a private matter." "Oh, but it's so much more than that." Oliver stepped inside, his demeanor casual, as if he were merely visiting friends. "You should know by now that our little family drama has drawn more attention than you realize." I could see the frustration and anger radiating off my brother as he squared his shoulders. Lila squeezed my hand tighter, her warmth a comforting lifeline amidst the turmoil. My heart thrummed unsteadily as dread settled in. "What do you want?" I managed to say, though the question felt futile. He leaned back against the wall, looking thoroughly unimpressed. "I'm here to make sure you understand the importance of playing this right. There's a lot of money at stake, and I don't think you all appreciate just how perilous your little situation has become." I felt Lila's grip tighten even further, a silent question passing between us. Could he truly mean what I thought? Was he threatening our safety? We've made our choices. "We don't need you anymore," I stated, the quiver in my voice betraying my facade of bravery. Oliver's grin deepened, revealing a glint of malice. "That's where you're wrong, Jess. You think you can just walk away from this, but you're already in too deep." He gestured around as if the walls themselves could bear witness to the chaos surrounding us. "That debt, the one Max has accumulated? It's only a fragment of a far bigger picture. You have no idea who you're up against." Max took a step closer, anger flashing in his eyes. "What do you mean? The money you think you owe?" He continued, his voice low and conspiratorial. "That's nothing if it leads to the right connections. But you know that deep down. You've always known." My heart sank at the realization that what I thought was a desperate struggle to regain control was only the beginning of a much darker path. We could bleach the turmoil from our lives and still be lingering in its clutches, like moths drawn to an impending flame. "There's so much more going on here than you're equipped to handle," Oliver continued. "You need to think this through, all of you. Your father and we're just trying to make sure everything goes smoothly. Whether you're involved or not, well, that's up to you." His words hung heavy in the air, taunting me, whispering that our family was already embroiled in something beyond our reckoning. Max, usually so strong, was now cast in a web of doubt. I could see it in his eyes, the struggle to deny just how trapped we had become. "Stop," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't just about money anymore. It's our lives. Our family." Lila shifted beside me. "You're trying to intimidate us, Oliver, but you won't succeed. We're not letting you dictate our lives." He laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Oh, but you don't get to decide that, do you? You'll learn soon enough. The stakes are higher than you can imagine. Your courage, it might just seal your fate." With those words, he stepped back, lingering for a moment before his expression softened, almost mockingly. "Remember, Jess, when you called for help, you may want to reconsider whom you trust." Max's fists clenched, and I could see the confusion coiling within him, entangled with rage. "What the hell does that mean?" But Oliver merely shrugged, a snake shedding his skin, slithering away from us, his presence dissipating into the night as we were left reeling from the implications of his visit. Heart racing, I turned to Lila, searching for some reassurance. Her eyes mirrored the anxiety I felt, but there was a spark of defiance in them as well. "We need to confront this, Jess," she urged, her voice steady, unwavering. "We can't allow Oliver or the threat he represents to decide our fate." Just then, stepping away from the heated atmosphere, I caught a glimpse of my father, who had been lurking quietly in the corners, his expression a mask of fury and defeat. He wasn't just spurred by fear. He was cornered by his own sins, and it bolstered a newly found resolve within me. "Dad, you need to talk to us." We have to get to the bottom of this. He shook his head slightly, as if shaking off years' worth of burden. Your innocence isn't as safe as I hoped, Jess. There are things at play here that are deeper than any of us can imagine. As the chilling truth slipped from his lips, it felt as though the ground beneath us shifted. The storm closing in around us was gathering strength, and something wicked had begun to surface, shifting the very foundation we had known. And with that, I knew we were only at the beginning of this descent into chaos, standing on the precipice of whatever our family had yet to face. The weight of the unknown clawed at me, pulling me into a darkness laden with echoes of promises broken, and I could no longer hold back the shiver of trepidation skittering down my spine. Just as silence threatened to lull us into a false sense of security, a sudden terrible thought took root in my mind. What if trusting Lila and even Max would cost us more than we could afford? The dread began to swell within me, a haunting curiosity steeped in fear. What if it became a choice between saving my family or losing myself? The days that followed felt both surreal and suffocating, enveloping our small home in an atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. I moved through the motions: dinner preparations, laundry, and the mundane tasks of daily life, but my mind raced with the heavy implications of Oliver's visit. I could hardly concentrate, with every thought a specter of doubt about our future. Max was more withdrawn than I'd ever seen him. The fire in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by an unsettling cloud of confusion. I caught glimpses of him staring out the window, as if hoping for an answer to materialize in the stillness of the night. Lila, ever my anchor, tried to pull me back to reality with little distractions, but I could see the concern etched in her brow. One evening we found ourselves huddled in the living room, the hum of the television washing over us like white noise. I knew we should be talking about the situation, but each time I opened my mouth, the words felt heavy and insurmountable. It was easier to reach for laughter, even hollow at that moment, shared under the guise of a sitcom. Did you see that guy? Max finally said, breaking the silence as he gestured dramatically at the screen. Who even wears socks with sandals? We exchanged weak smiles, but I could tell that beneath the surface, we were all bracing, strategizing how to combat the storm ahead. The next day, invigorated by the laughter, I resolved to confront my father. He needed to meet us halfway, share the weight of whatever darkness Oliver had introduced into our lives. I found him in his study, the sun casting long shadows as it dipped below the horizon. Dad, I began, leaning against the doorframe. He looked up, those tired eyes meeting mine with a weariness that spoke of countless sleepless nights. Can we talk? I need you to be honest with me about everything. A tense silence stretched between us, and when he finally spoke, each word came wrapped in hesitation. I wish I could protect you from this mess, Jess. The deeper I go, the more I realize there is so much I've kept from you. There are connections, people who don't just play by the rules. What does that even mean? I asked, feeling a pit of anxiety open in my stomach. He took a deep breath, pain etched in his features. I got involved with the wrong crowd a long time ago. Oliver was always there. A devil wrapped in a charming package. I thought I could play the game. I was wrong. It spiraled. When your brother got involved, Max, didn't he ask for this? None of us did. My voice was louder than intended, carrying the weight of 1,000 fears. I know, Jess, but it's important you understand. Important? You want me to understand this chaos? You didn't protect us. The tears I had been fighting against threatened to spill over. A harried look passed over my father's face as he stood up. You're right, I failed you. But I need you to trust me when I say that walking away isn't an option anymore. There are consequences, serious consequences for all of us. His words sunk in, each syllable a shard of ice piercing my heart. I left his study feeling as though gravity had shifted, leaving me unbalanced and vulnerable. I wandered aimlessly, the walls seemingly closing in around me as my thoughts spiraled. It wasn't long before Lila found me sitting on the stoop, my gaze lost somewhere beyond the horizon. Hey, she said softly, sitting beside me. What's on your mind? I can't shake this feeling, I admitted, my voice shaky. What if we're too far in to pull away? What if trusting my family or even you means risking everything? Jess, we'll figure this out together. I believe in you and us. Her hand found mine, squeezing tightly as if to ground me in the moment. A feeling of warmth seeped in, reminding me that in the tempest of emotions around us, a glimmer of hope existed, however fragile. But just as I turned to meet her gaze, the shrill sound of my phone pierced the moment, rattling through my nerves. A number I didn't recognize flashed on the screen. Ignoring Lila's questioning glance, I swiped to answer, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. Jess? The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, smooth yet distinctly menacing. Who is this? Someone who knows more than you can imagine about your family, and the mess you've gotten embroiled in, and I might just have the leverage you didn't know existed. My spine straightened, a chill spreading through me. What do you want? I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm despite the tempest of fear inside me. Oh, just a simple reunion with Oliver. You know, he misses you. Perhaps you should pay him a visit before it's too late. The line went dead, leaving me grasping a void, heart racing, fear clawing at the edges of my resolve. The walls I thought I could hold against this spiraling chaos began to tremble, and with that single foreboding call, I felt the tenuous threads of my family and my own sanity begin to fray. The weight of what lay ahead loomed larger than ever, and for the first time, I truly feared I wasn't just battling for our family's survival, I was teetering on the brink of losing everything I ever held dear. The next morning arrived cloaked in a gray that mirrored my heart. The sense of urgency that pulsed through my veins left me restless and hollow. I could no longer pretend that the world outside was untouched by the chaos unfolding around us. The sun struggled to penetrate the thick clouds, as if it too sensed the storm brewing in the depths of my life. Max was still withdrawn, leaving the house at dawn and returning only when the sun had long disappeared from sight. I'd hoped to catch him, to bridge the yawning chasm growing between us, but my attempts at casual conversation were met with mumbled responses and glazing eyes. I knew he was grappling with clarity amidst the shadows that accompanied our father's revelations, and that unnerving call I had received. As I stood in the kitchen, making the same breakfast I had prepared countless times, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables offered me a flimsy sense of control. Each slice was a release, a desperate attempt to cut through the tangles of emotion that had ensnared us. The doorbell rang and I glanced at the clock, confused. I wasn't expecting anyone. It was too early for any neighborly visits or the usual stream of friends. Cautiously, I opened the door to find a package nestled against the threshold. My fingers trembled as I picked it up, the weight unnerving. It bore no return address, and a note taped to the side read, "For Jess." Inside, nestled in crumpled tissue paper, was a stunning silver locket. I lifted it gently, the intricate engravings catching the muted light. As I opened it, my breath hitched, a photograph of Oliver on one side, and on the other, a folded piece of paper. It was a handwritten note. "Find me. I can help you unravel this mess before it consumes your family." Part of me wanted to dismiss it as another sinister ploy, but another part, the one that had been yearning for clarity, throbbed with a manic curiosity. I noticed my hands were shaking as I closed the locket, the reality of its implications heavy against my chest. "Who is it?" Max's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned to see him standing in the hallway, his posture tense and guarded. It's a locket," I stammered, uncertain if I should share the note or not. "From Oliver." His face paled, and I watched as uncertainty cast flickers of emotion across his features. "You shouldn't have opened it, Jess. What was I supposed to do? Leave it sitting there? What if it was important?" Once again, anger flared at the thought of Oliver's shadow creeping back into our lives. Max stepped closer, the urgency palpable. "We can't play his game. You know that. He'll twist anything we give him against us. If you felt compelled to reach out, just call me, all right?" "I didn't think I know," he cut in sharply, the mix of pain and fear evident in his voice. "You're struggling to keep all of this together. But if you play his hand now, Jess, you could lose your grasp on everything we've fought for." His words settled over me like a heavy blanket, suffocating the flickers of hope as they threatened to ignite. The reality was stark. We were in deeper than any of us could have imagined. As the day progressed, the house stood steeped in an oppressive silence. Lila stopped by later, bringing a tray of homemade cookies, her presence a welcomed respite from the looming shadow of worry. The sweet smell of chocolate mingled with the tension, coaxing out fleeting smiles amid the fatigue etched on our faces. "How is Max?" she asked, her brow furrowing as she noticed the heaviness that surrounded us. "Not great," I admitted, pausing to consider my next words. "He's still wrestling with everything that's happening. I fear he feels like he's losing his footing." Lila nodded, her expression sympathetic. It's a lot for anyone to process. Have you thought about reaching out to someone? A counselor or someone who can help you navigate this? Her suggestion echoed in my mind, yet I couldn't shake the lingering sense of betrayal and refusal that blocked any notion of reaching out. What if talking only brings more chaos? Isn't it better to keep it between us? Jess, she urged gently, hiding from it one tea make it go away. You need a solid foundation beyond just the three of us. I wanted to believe, to seek solace in that thought, but as the evening deepened, every hesitant breath I took felt steeped in fear. Someone was watching us, waiting in the dark, waiting for the moment we slip. Later that night, my phone buzzed again, one more call, and the rush of anxiety was immediate. I glanced at Lila, who sat on the couch, her eyes wide with worry. This was the third time today. Fatigue washed over me. Hello? I answered, braced for yet another confrontation with the unseen threat hanging like a specter. Jess, the voice chimed through the line, unmistakably Oliver S. You've got to come see me. You're too involved in things that are spiraling, and I'm the only one who can keep you afloat. My heart raced, and a specific line of dread whispered in my mind. What do you mean? Meet me at the old diner tomorrow at noon. I'll explain everything, but you must come alone, he commanded, the finality ringing through the line before silence enveloped me once more. I have to go, I said before disconnecting. In that moment I felt trapped by the enormity of my choices, the unrelenting push-pull between the darkness of my family's past and the flickering light of hope that Oliver dangled before me. I can't allow you to do this, Lila said, standing abruptly. Who am I supposed to trust here? Feels like I'm fighting ghosts. My voice trembled with frustration. No, Jess. We can't let him win. Please just let us come together, fight this together. I glanced from her earnest eyes to the sliver of uncertain comfort ahead, wondering if stepping into that unknown would tether me to truth or unravel our fragile unity entirely. With every breath, I realized the choice was more significant than I could have ever imagined between confronting the chaos or losing everything that mattered to me. In the end, I stood on the precipice of my decision, knowing that whatever path I chose would change our lives forever. As I stared into her pleading gaze, I felt hope slip through my fingers, teetering on the edge of despair, battling the choice that lay ahead, an impossible crossroads from which there might be no return. The diner held memories like ghosts, swirling through the air with the scent of burnt coffee and stale pastries. I stepped inside, heart pounding as I scanned the familiar booths, half expecting Oliver to emerge from the shadows of the past. The light was muted, casting a somber glow that matched the dread clawing at my stomach. Each tick of the clock felt like an eternity, and I fought the urge to flee as I settled into a booth in the far corner, where we used to share secrets and dreams as carefree children. Now that innocence felt like a distant echo, buried beneath the weight of our reality. Moments later, Oliver sauntered through the door, the confidence in his stride rubbing against the very core of everything I feared. He slid into the seat across from me, a calculated smile on his face that chilled my blood. Glad you could make it, Jess. I knew you'd see reason. I swallowed hard, summoning the remnants of my determination. What do you want, Oliver? This isn't a game anymore. Aren't you a bit more curious about why I reached out? He countered, leaning back in his seat, the glint in his eyes reflecting the chaos around us. Your family is tangled in something much deeper, and I hold the key to unraveling it. Unraveling? I snapped. What makes you think I trust you? He chuckled darkly, the sound grating against my resolve. Trust? You're past that now, aren't you? Far deeper in than you realize. It's about survival at this point. Survival? I echoed, bitterness mingling with rising anger. You're the reason we're in this mess. He held up a hand, unbothered by my outrage. What you need to understand, Jess, is that Oliver, you need me. The way he said it, the audacity made my skin crawl. I don't require anything from you, I spat, though doubt gnawed at me. He leaned in, eyes narrowing, his voice low, a sinister whisper. You think your brother's deal is a mere business venture? He's been playing with fire and the rush? It's intoxicating. But it comes with chains. Speaking of chains, suddenly, the moment crystallized a visual explosion in my mind of how tangled we truly were within the contours of deception and power. What do you mean? I demanded, but he flashed a rabbit-esque grin, reveling in the suspense. You'll find out soon enough if you don't take action. Before I could respond, he stood abruptly, grabbing the edge of the table, invading the bubble of our conversation. All I'm saying, Jess, is that I can take you to the heart of it. But you're going to have to trust me. Choose wisely, the clock is ticking. Part of me felt an urge to reach out to him, to understand whatever threat loomed over us, but every inch of my being screamed against it. I was about to protest when he added, when the moment comes it'll be too late. Ask yourself, how far are you willing to go for your family? My heart raced at the enormity of his proposition. The weight of choices flooded my mind. What if I agreed? Or worse, what ramifications would follow if I refused? Jess, I need you to understand, he continued, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Max isn't as untouchable as you think. There are people watching, always watching. I clenched my fists, fighting the urgency mixing fear and determination within me. You won't control us anymore, I declared, newfound strength resonating in my voice. You leave us alone. You can't dictate this narrative, Jess. Life doesn't care for your wishes. And with that last bitter note, he departed, leaving the air thick with uncertainties that felt more menacing than ever. As I stepped out of the diner into the waning light, I knew the real threat hung darker above us, unresolved and lurking. I couldn't allow ourselves to be consumed any longer. I had to confront Max, lay everything bare. When I finally returned home, I found the house eerily quiet. And yet there was a heaviness to the silence that pounded against my chest, urging me to act. I found Max sitting on the couch, staring blankly ahead, shadows of turmoil playing in his eyes. We need to talk, I said, determination anchoring my voice. He looked up, vulnerability laced with defiance. What did Oliver want? I don't care what he wants, I replied firmly, moving closer to him. I need you to be honest with me. This involves us, our family. Max's shoulders sagged, and he finally let out a breath he had been holding. I made a mistake, Jess. I thought I was in control. But Oliver, he's dangerous. I got blindsided. The atmosphere shifted, and in that moment, I could feel the fissures of trust rocketing between us. You have to stop trying to protect me. Your choices affect me whether you like it or not. I'm scared, Jess, he admitted, voice cracking under the weight. And I don't know how to fix this. No more running. Together we can figure this out, I declared, forcing myself to remain calm. We can't let fear dictate our lives. In his eyes I saw a flicker, a reminder of the brother I had always admired, the one who tackled chaos head-on. You promise to stand with me? I promise, I affirmed, inching closer, the chasm between us slowly pulling together. But Max's face suddenly shadowed with doubt. What about Oliver? What if he knows what we're planning? Then we face him together, I said. He nodded hesitantly, the resolution still burnt in uncertainty. Together, we stepped into an uncharted world fueled by determination but eclipsed by dread. The night deepened, shadows flickering against the walls, and I felt the promise of community, each choice knotting tighter around us, lending strength to the uncertainty that remained. No longer afraid of the price we might pay, I was ready to take a stand. I had to believe that we could wrestle chaos back into order, and that as long as we faced it united, we had a fighting chance. The next morning, as the sun broke through the clouds, a bizarre optimism swept through me. I stood by the window, feeling hopeful in a way that felt entirely new. Together we would reclaim control over our lives. And yet, in the back of my mind, a whisper cautioned me. The truth sometimes comes at a price that takes more than just courage, it demands our very essence. As I closed my eyes against the morning light, a resolution formed deep within me. One way or another we would reclaim all that was ours, even if the journey ahead meant confronting the dangers hiding within. With this thought guiding me, I whispered to the horizon tinged with soft light, "We'll find a way through this." And just like that, the future awaited us, entwined in shadows, yet shimmering with the legacy of hope.